Hi paper crafters, this is Colette. Today I'd love to show you a really easy way to make these absolutely glorious box cards. They don't take too long and you can use them for a whole host of creative greetings. These box cards actually fold down flat for posting and, as I said, make great cards. So let's get started. So to start off with, I've cut a piece of Kaiser Crafts Ivory premium cardstock to 6 inches by 12 inches, and I'm going to go ahead now and score that. So as always, I have my Kaiser Craft ball tool into my soap to make it flow beautifully on my scoreboard, and I'm going to score it on the short side at 3 inches all the way down. I'm now going to rotate it, and on the long side I'm going to score it at the following. I'm going to zoom in here so you can see exactly where I'm actually going. Okay, so the first one is to score this at 2 7/8 of an inch. So that's going to be to here, and I want to score that all the way through, right to the very end of that card, all the way down. The next score is going to be 5 5/8, and again all the way down. I'm now going to move across to 8 1/2 inches, score that all the way down, and my final score line is going to be at 11 1/4 inches. Okay, so just to recap then on those score lines, I have got 2 7/8 of an inch, 5 5/8 of an inch, 8 1/2 inches, and 11 1/4 inches, and I've gone all the way down for those. The next thing that I need to do, so we can pop the scoreboard away now, is I need to grab my scissors, and I'm going to take away this little section up here. This little section just up there, I'm going to cut that out. You can do that with your craft knife, with your paper trimmers. I'm just using it with my Kaiser Craft scissors here. So just going to cut that out. Okay, so that's exactly what we want. Now the next thing we want to do is we want to cut down to this score line. Again, you can do that on your paper trimmers or with a craft knife, but I'm just going to simply grab my scissors and do that with these. And the last one. Okay. Now the next thing we need to do is to cover our card foundation with beautiful papers. And I've chosen to use papers from the PS I Love You collection from Kaiser Craft. This beautiful one here is called Romantic, and this glorious rose one is actually called Courtship. So these are the two papers I've chosen to cover my foundation. So this here is the actual front of the box. And this is what you'll see when it's all like this. And what I've done is to simply take that beautiful piece of romantic paper and just pencil mark, as you've seen me do in many of my other videos, and then cut out the relevant pieces and stick them down. And you'll notice I have a small border all the way around. This is because I don't want the papers to buckle when the flaps come down. That's known as paper warp. So I cut them in individual sections. So you'll have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 in that beautiful romantic paper. Once you've done that, you're going to turn your card foundation over, and then you're going to cover the inside of the box. And I've chosen, as I've said before, this beautiful courtship paper. Using exactly the same process, we're going to cover each of those sections. And I'm also going to cover this little flat piece here. So once we've done that, we can then actually form our box. So this is our foundation. This is now the front side, which is actually covered in the the black paper like this, and I'm just going to simply fold these all down into position, just like this. As always, using your bone folder to get your crisp folds trains that really nicely to do as it's meant to do. This little flap as well, we're going to fold in like that. So just to recap, this is what it looks like. Now I am going to put some adhesive on here. So you could use that lovely strong red tape. I'm using the Kaiser Crafts double-sided tape here. And I'm going to put a couple of strips because this is an important bond here. I never have the patience to always hunt for my scissors. I tend to put my thumb here and then just rip it. It saves me hunting under piles of paper for scissors. I'm sure you don't do that. So I've got my 2 strips down there and I'm just going to peel that away. And then what I'm going to do is to close up my box, putting this on the inside, so the flap goes to the inside, and then just sticking that down nicely. And as always, we need to get that good burnish to make sure that's staying nicely. So that really is the basis of our box. And of course, yours will all be covered beautifully in your pattern paper. The next thing we need to do is to make our bars, and I've got 2 bars in this box. You can have more if you want to. And the bars are actually cut from the same paper, and they're just little strips, and I've cut the bars at 4 7/8 of an inch by 1 inch. 4 7/8 of an inch by 1 inch, and I've scored 1 inch in on each end and folded those back. So all you're going to do here is put some adhesive on the edges, and you're going to pop that in to the actual box. So you can pop that in so that 1 inch element here butts up to the edge. Obviously that will be glued in, mine's just resting there at the moment. You take your second bar, which is exactly those same measurements, 4 7/8 of an inch by 1 inch, score them 1 inch from each end, and then you're going to put those so your little, whoops, that other one's popped down, but basically this one here will butt up to the other one, and that will space them out quite nicely for you. So you'll have those 2 bars sitting nicely in your box, and that's what we attach things to. Okay, so let's have a look at what I've done. So on my 2 bars, I've taken the beautiful collectibles. You know I love these collectibles, and these in particular are just glorious. We've got clocks and flowers and doilies and beautiful pink flowers and words and sayings. So there's lots to choose from. What I did is I took some of the bigger pieces and I've used foam dots behind them to bring them forward and set them back. Some have gone on the front of those bars, some have gone behind the bars. And sometimes what I've done is I've taken the Kaiser Craft foam tape and I've cut 2 layers, put them on top of each other so they stand further away, because what you're looking for is you're looking for that nice dimension. So you can see there's all sorts of different dimensions happening. All right, so you just build those up as you like. The butterflies, which are very typical, I think, the way that this is done in these boxes, is if you take some acetate and you just cut strips. It's going to be incredibly hard to see this, but these are the strips of acetate that I've cut to 1/4 inches long, and I've just put some adhesive on the back of these, attached it to a little butterfly, cut that off, and then glued that behind one of those bars. And that's how those little elements that look as though they're flying all by themselves, invisible, so to speak, are actually supported by acetate. And it's lovely that they kind of move in the wind a little bit, so to speak. So that's how you create the acetate bits. Now obviously these areas here you will actually decorate as you want to. Now, I've had lots and lots of people email me lots of questions over my past videos, so I thought I'd give you a couple of tips. One of the things people ask is about the cheesecloth. How do I actually create that lovely soft look with the cheesecloth? So cheesecloth I just get from your local kitchen store, and I usually just cut off a tiny piece, and I'll just take a single little layer, and all I would do is to pop a piece of glue down on this, and I'd pop that down, let that dry, and then I'd fluff it out to get all the little wavy washy pieces, and then I'd pop a flower or something on top, and then what I'd do is I'd get some tweezers and I'd start to poke it behind until I got the look that I was actually after, and then you can poke it out and poke it in as you want to. So that's how I do the cheesecloth. Another question I've had from lots of people related to these gorgeous little twirly vines. How did I make these kind of twirly vines, which I do use a lot on my card? What I do with my Kaisercraft flowers is I tend to cut them up to store them, and I store them in these boxes, and I have quite a few of these tower boxes. I've bought these from from Kmart. They're like $5 or something, and you get like 4 sections, and you can build them up shorter or longer. And you can also remove the sections. But you can see typically what I do with my flowers is I will cut off the ends. And you can see here, by cutting off the ends, it means I can store them much more nicely. And you can see here, this is just all sorts of the ends from the flowers. And what I would do to make those little vines is I would take one of these ends off, and I will take a skewer. I'm just going to zoom this in a little bit, because this is super easy, and I'm sure some of you know this, but there might be some of you that don't. And I'm going to just hold that down on this ordinary little wooden skewer, and I'm just going to start to roll it. Can you see that happening? So I'm just rolling it. The little end piece I'm going to take down and just roll that against my mat, so I can make sure that the last little bits are also rounded off. And then I take that off. Now if you want a long one, leave it like that. I will often cut it in half to give me 2, depending on what you want. And then what I do is I use a nice strong glue to just pop some glue on the end, and then I will take that and then just poke that into wherever I want to put it on my flower. So you can see I've got one poking out there, got another little one poking out there. I like them because it adds another dimension and another textural element to the card. So the cheesecloth, the twigs was something. Another little trick that I want to share with you does relate to these butterflies and to the Kaisercraft sticker sheets. So this is the sticker sheet from the PS I Love You collection, and what I always do with my sticker sheets is I take away the backgrounds, so I will get rid of the bits that I don't need, so those little background bits. I won't do it for all of it, but I'll explain to you why. What I might do is I might take this off and think, okay, let's see what that might look like. In fact, I did do this on this particular project and see what it might look like there. And I decided it wasn't quite what I wanted. So now, because I've removed it, I've got much more tacky space, and I can actually pop that away. Now another great little tip is when I did my beautiful box, I didn't have quite enough butterflies in my collectibles, so I took some of the gorgeous little butterflies off the sticker sheet. But of course they're stickers, and they'd be sticky on the back, and it wouldn't take them long to stick to the other elements on this card. So what I have here is a little container with talcum powder in, and I have a nice soft brush. So all I would do is I would pick off a particular butterfly, and I would just dip a brush into there, and I would just paint the brush of this with the talcum powder, and hey presto, that's no longer sticky, so I could put some foam tape on that and quite happily use that, as I have done, knowing that these are not going to stick to anything. So using talcum powder, which I do a lot with my stickers because I like my stickers to be dimensional, is another great little technique. Now sometimes I like the back of my cards to stand tall and proud and not flap down like the others, and you can do that quite comfortably with one of them. If you want to do that, all you would do is to take the back section and you'd put another piece of card in there covered with that beautiful rose paper, the courtship paper, and that you can see will make it strong and it will stand proud and very beautiful. And then, of course, if you're going to send that away, you just collapse it like that, and then you'd make yourself a nice envelope to pop that into. So I hope you like that. This is my super quick and easy way to make one of these absolutely gorgeous fold-down card boxes. I hope you've enjoyed it. Don't forget to check out my other projects, which you'll find on the Kaisercraft blog or on my own personal blog. Hope to hear from you and see you again soon. Thanks for now. Bye-bye.